In this video, I will put together the theory of previous videos to create what you might call a single view application. That name comes from the web regarding single page applications, and I use a similar idea. The app is currently on screen. I call it OK Reads, inspired by the website of a similar name. There will be a single main view, which has the left side menu, and then a swappable content area here in the middle. I can select various menus to the left, and the content is swapped out, but I retain one main view. It is a simple application where I can manage virtual bookshelves and put books onto these. I can start by creating an author. Let's call him Henry. Then I can create a shelf, for example, want to read. And then add 2 books to the shelf, like this. And finally, I can see an overview of my bookshelves, currently just the one. And I can also inspect a specific shelf. Currently the data is just kept in a list in memory, so nothing is saved when closing and restarting the application. I have prepared the code, so I won't be doing any coding this time. Let's first inspect the organization of my project. I have my resources folder with all the fxml files in it. There is a main view, which is, well, the main view. It contains the left side menu and the content to show. There are multiple other files for each of the other views. Then in the source folder I have 4 main parts. The startup, the domain with my entities of author, book and shelf. I have the persistence here with the interface declaring what the persistence can do. Here is the data container, which includes a list per entity type, and the list data manager class, which implements the interface. I include the data container so it is easier to serialize this and save it to a file later on. Notice the data container field variable is static. While this is not ideal, it is a decent approach for now. Whenever a new view is opened, it will create a new instance of this list data manager. So in order to not lose all data, I have declared the field static. I may later introduce the concept of dependency injection so I can reuse an instance of the list data manager, but I will leave it like this for now. There are also other solutions to this, but again, leaving it for now. And then I have the presentation package divided into core and controllers. The core has my view manager and the 2 interfaces, and I will probably add more classes here in future videos. The controllers package has my controller classes, no surprise here. Let's start by looking into the views. I will not go into each one, but start by focusing on the main view. Let's open it up in the scene builder. Notice the topmost pane is a border pane. This one has 5 sections: top, left, center, right and bottom. You can see only the left section has elements contained in a VBox. Here we find labels, separators and some buttons. Fairly simple. Each button has declared a method to be called. And if I look in the main view controller class, it just contains methods for the buttons. That's it. Each method tells the view manager to open a specific view. My view manager is then updated to use this border pane instead of a scene, which I have shown previously. Let's have a look. I will start with the start method. Notice here I initialize the view manager as usual and then tell it to initially show the home view. That's just the welcome message. The init method is changed, so let's inspect it. As usual, a view is loaded. This is my border pane. I set this as a field variable. Previously it was a scene where I swapped out the scene root when changing view. Now I have a border pane instead, but otherwise the idea is pretty similar. In the show view method down here, I still load the requested fxml file and just set that as the center of the border pane, my main layout here. Previously this was where I set the root of the scene. And similarly in the other methods. So overall a fairly minor change to the view manager. Let's see what happens when I swap to the add shelf view. First, the main view controller. it has this button which requests a change of view. And the controller for the add shelf, that's this one here. I have the input field for the shelf name, a label to show errors or success message, and a data manager field variable, which is instantiated in the initialize method. Remember, this comes from the initializable interface, and JavaFX automatically calls this after the controller is instantiated. Then here is the method which is called when adding a new shelf. I get the text from the input field, validate there is actually something there or display an error, then create the shelf object and hand it over to the data manager. I finalize this with a message to the user. At the bottom I have the action for the cancel button. This will just swap the view to the welcome message. And most of the controllers behave in similar manners, being fairly simple actually. Let's just have a look at the add author controller. This time, notice there is no interface. This is an alternative approach. I can still have an initialize method, but now without arguments. JavaFX will still find this and call this method automatically. This might be slightly simpler, but perhaps also less clear what is happening because you don't have the interface. So I guess it's a matter of preference. There's a similar method for adding an author or canceling the process. Alright, last controller, the select shelf controller. This displays all my shelves in a list view. The shelves are retrieved from the data manager here. The list view is cleared, and maybe that's not actually necessary, but whatever. There's a bit of validation, and then the names of the shelves are added to the list view. In the view I can select a row, meaning the shelf, and view it. That selection is handled here, and then the view is swapped here. Notice I pass along a parameter for the specific shelf to show. I think this is all I wanted to show for now. The code is on GitHub if you wish to look at it yourself. Find the link in the description below. So a quick recap. I have made a single view application using a border pane, swapping out views by setting the center content, thereby retaining the overall layout across multiple views. I have put all the fxml files into the resources folder as is commonly recommended. I have a two-layered architecture where I separate the concerns of presentation logic and data management logic. And I have my usual view manager set up here as we have seen multiple times by now, assuming you have seen my other videos. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching.